Hey folks, today I'm actually getting around to doing a video that I've wanted to do for a little while now, and that is using some of our wild flowers to make some wild cookies. Now there are a couple of things here that aren't wild, obviously, and we'll flick through the ingredients first. So here I have roughly about a scant half a cup of the leached, cold leached acorn meal. Now this is not processed, this is not roasted like I had done with my previous video. This is just simply leached ground acorn meal. And with that we have a mixture of curly dock seed flour, and if you see all those little teeny weeny little seeds in there. Now the problem is with curly dock, when you actually come to process it, really it's the seeds that you are after, but you can't get the chaff or the outer layer of the seed off. So in the end I just whiz the whole thing up together, and that's what we came with, and it's fine. So we have a mixture of curly dock seed flour, and we also have some Red Alder Catkin flour here as well. There's about a good dessert spoonful of the catkin flour, and probably a quarter of a cup of the curly dock seed flour. And then moving on, we have a quarter of a cup, just over maybe, of the roasted acorn meal. So this was the this is the acorn meal that I did in the previous video where we roasted it for coffee, and today I'm going to put it in the cookies. And the next little pile is just a heaped dessert spoonful of nodding sedge seeds, ground and roasted. So they are the main bulk of the cookie mixture today. And this is actually the first time I'm making the cookies with everything all being wild flowers. I usually add in a little bit of wholemeal flour, but this recipe I'm not actually doing that. Now I have half a cup of butter here, softened. Now in a real world, and I would like to be able to use, is wild fat, but I don't have any, and so I have to use butter. If we had bear fat, that would be ideal. Raccoon fat would be good also. I do have deer tallow in the freezer to render down, but that is going to be used for soap rather than cooking. Deer tallow just is not a very nice flavour, as I have mentioned in previous videos I've done. So we have to go with the butter here, and one egg. This is from our hens outside, so that's a nice free range egg. And we have quarter of a cup of maple syrup. This is our homemade maple syrup that was made here on the homestead. So other than the butter, we're not doing too bad. I won't be adding baking powder into this either, just for the fact baking powder, I don't really see the need of it a lot of the time in cookies, and at the moment I can't find a baking powder that isn't a ridiculous price. So we're just going to get on now and mix up all the ingredients. So we'll put the butter in our bowl, and as I say, you know, if we had bear fat, that would be the best that we could use here, because bear fat doesn't have a taste, or not a taste that you would associate. So we're just going to cream the butter a little bit there before we add in our maple syrup and egg. And this is a really quick recipe, and again I have no idea what it's going to turn out like, because I haven't made it with just all this before. So we have our half a butter all nice and softened, and we're going to add our egg, our nice free range egg, into that. And if you look at the nice colour of that yolk, you can tell it's a free range egg and not one of those supermarket that have been there for months. So excuse me, I'm just washing my hands. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add in our quarter of a cup of maple syrup. Now I found when I made these last time, I actually put in about half a cup of maple syrup, and I found the cookies were quite sweet, so I've downed the maple syrup again, and I know I've left a little bit in there, and the reason why is because I've just actually poured that in there and looked at the amount of ingredients I have, and I actually think that's probably going to be a little bit too sweet again, but until the final product we won't really know. So we're just going to go back in here and we're just going to beat, you know, this up until it all mixes nicely. And the other thing as well, with some of the wild flowers that we have, especially the curly dock and the alder, they can actually have a bitter taste to them. So if you overdo it with those flowers, it kind of gets a little bitter, and the acorn can be a little on the bitter side as well. Now, I don't worry about if there's a few little bits of lumps of butter in here or any of that nonsense. You know, this has a busy household, and, you know, at the end of the day, rustic is my rule, and that is fine, and it doesn't taste any different. So what we're going to do next is we're going to go in with our flowers. So our nodding sedge, our curly dock, and our roasted acorn flour, and not forgetting the Red Alder Catkin that's in there a little bit too. Hello Mimi, you coming to see? So May has just joined us here. There she is. So we're just going to put those back in. Did you want to mix that for me? So May's just going to mix all of the flour in there. Does it smell nice? Yeah. Good. Give it a good old stir. And that's it. Get those mussels going. Good girl. Should I have a look? Let's see. Okay, so we're just going to get in there. Now the first thing that I can feel, funnily enough, is the coarseness of this mix. Now some of the flowers are quite coarse, especially say the nodding sedge, where we may have some of that outer husk, and you know, you can actually feel that as you're mixing the cookies, and I'm just basically giving it a good cream, and you can see all the little bits of flour, all the different, you know, varieties or little seed heads in there, and it adds a great texture to the final product. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to add in our acorn meal. I have a keen little watcher here, don't I? So we're just going to scoop in our acorn meal. Now I've been making bread with this acorn meal, and it gives the bread a really, really good chewy texture, which just makes the most wonderful toast. I don't know what it is about those acorns, but it just really, really gives the bread a lovely chewy texture, chewy nutty texture, which I'm hoping will be brought out in the cookies. So as I mentioned earlier, I won't be adding baking powder into this. It's just going to have the egg and the butter as an outside influence, I suppose. Now, if I didn't have the egg and I was really wild, then I would probably use fish eggs or something like that. Now, people would be saying, yuck, that sounds gross. Well, actually, fish eggs don't taste fishy. People would think your cookies would turn out tasting like fish, and they actually don't. The eggs don't taste fishy, and you know, if I was out there surviving, then that is where I would go. I would go for fish eggs to bind the cookie mixture together. So that is about done. So all that is left to do now is really just put these onto my, and I knocked the camera while I was doing that, never mind. We are just going to spoon all of this mixture into cookie piles onto our baking sheet, and then they're going to go in the oven probably for around 10 minutes on 350 or until they're done. And I'm just going to have a little taste of the batter. And it's got a lovely, the maple syrup is actually just about right in there. Did you want to have a little taste? Dip your finger in. What do you think?
Nice.
Is it nice?
Yeah.
Yes. The maple syrup, I was worried that the maple syrup was going to be too sweet because it looked like a lot in the bowl. But as mentioned, the flours are quite bitter. And that actually balances out. That's probably the nicest one I've made so far. So we're going to get that on the cookie tray now. And my tray is just behind me. Okay. So I will try and do this so you can see. And all I'm going to do is just drop, you know, kind of that size cookie onto the tray. And when I've done that, we will get back to you. And then they will be ready to go in the oven. Okay, so there we have 11 cookies. And they're just going to go into the oven until they're cooked. May has just gone off with the scrapings, so it must be rather good. Now, with these cookies, I can imagine a little bit of chocolate or chocolate chips would go well in them. But for this particular batch, I'm just going to leave it as they are because I just want to see if how well that's worked. Another alternative here, and I didn't really think at the time, I do have some beech nuts in my pantry and they would have actually made a nice addition to them as well. So maybe next time we'll incorporate the beech nuts in there. So I'm just going to pop these in the oven now and then we will see you when they are cooked. Okay, so the cookies are cooked. You'll have to excuse my windswept appearance, but I've just been out to put the roosters in and thank you, and get our hens out. So I'm going to give them a try. And as you can see, they're quite a nice dark colour, and we can focus in on their, not really focusing, but quite a nutty kind of texture. So let's give one a try. And they're actually really nice. The sweetness is right. I just about got the sweetness right. I wouldn't put any more than that, and I probably wouldn't put any less. So they're a big thumbs up. I'm sure the kids will agree. There's a little bitterness to some of the acorns, but it actually adds to the flavour. So if you like the video, give us a thumbs up, share, like, do all of those things. And I will see you in the next video. Thank you. Say hello, Aspen. Where have you gone? There she is. Say hi.
Hello.
Hi. And bye.